just feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some soccer!
I don't care what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the
Call
Cowboys.
this college
Welcome,
rule!
everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm Chris. This is Dom. Just a couple of comics who love talking sports, doing sport things outside of actually playing them.
Yep.
We're actually at the last episode of a block of just great NFL playoff games. And what's our finale here?
Finale is the 1958 NFL Championship game.
Which some people call the greatest game of all time.
I would say it's the most important game ever played, which we'll discuss in our next two episodes, because the one that's going to follow this is strictly because of this game.
Yeah.
So consider the greatest game ever played between the Baltimore Colts and the New York Giants, the New York Football Giants.
Yep.
And it is the first championship game ever televised in professional football, and it's televised on NBC on December 28th, 1958. At Yankee Stadium, which I
Yankee
thought was
Stadium.
cool.
Yep.
I remember when they closed down Yankee Stadium, they had like tributes, granted for all the baseball, it's Yankee Stadium, but like they would always keep coming back to this game.
Yep.
So the Baltimore Colts, they're a relatively newer NFL franchise. Relatively new.
5 years, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think they started in 53.
Yep. Coached by Weeb Eubank. They're the top scoring offense in the league, and they got a quarterback who had kind of a mysterious route to the NFL. Some punk kid named Johnny Unitas or something.
Sideburns down to his goddamn shoulders.
That's a haircut you can set your watch to,
That's
Grandpa
right.
Simpson.
That's right.
But Johnny Unitas was actually cut by the Steelers.
Oh, yeah.
They wouldn't even given him a chance. Apparently, legend was Art Rooney's sons were the only ones that caught passes from him in Steelers training camp.
Weird.
This is how bad they were.
Yeah.
They needed drunk Bobby Lane to save them. Didn't really save him. But cut by the Steelers, found a home with Baltimore after playing in the Sandlot Leagues, and my God, was he awesome.
Yeah.
This year for them. Led the NFL in touchdown passes with the high tops and crew cut. All pro that year. Legend. Tremendous backfield on offense with Lenny Moore, who was like the original Bobby Mitchell. He's kind of that pass-catching running back. And Alan the Horse Amici is the fullback, former Heisman Trophy winner. Along the line, you had L.J. Dupre, or as far as receivers, you had L.J. Dupre, who made the Pro Bowl that year, and the Larry Bird of white receivers, Raymond Berry, leading the NFL in catches and tutties that year.
Who had a great game in this, I was about to call it a Super Bowl, in this NFL championship.
Literally only Rice's 88 Super Bowl can compare to this as
yeah.
a receiver. I would have to be honest with you on that one. And then Jim Mutchler as their tight end with 7 touchdown catch. Like, they were airing it out in an era that you didn't see a lot of it.
Yeah.
The offensive line was great with Art Spinney. Their center's name was Buzz Nutter, which just confused the hell out of me. Is that when you just jerk off into one of those big buzz balls?
Oh, who? Buzz Nutter?
Buzz Nutter?
Don't shake his hand.
I gave her a Buzz Nutter last night. What does that even mean? What do you think it means?
Yeah. you fill in the blanks.
And then future Hall of Famer anchor at left tackle Jim Parker.
Oh, yeah.
Steve Meyer was their kicker, and we talked about Mark Mosley in the last episode. 40% conversion rate on those field goals for Steve Meyer, and he'll come back into play later.
Just not great.
Not great. Defense was second in points per game and second in yards. They're stout up front with Eugene Big Daddy Lipscomb. And look, Big Daddy, it's regular Daddy. He's a Hall of Famer. He was amazing. Played for the Colts and Steelers. And then Gino Marchetti, All-Pro. Don Joyce. And then Fats Donovan, Art Donovan. He used to go on The Tonight Show all the time.
Oh, yeah.
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 Made the Pro Bowl that year. Great secondary with, Andy Nelson and Ray Brown. They each had 8 interceptions apiece. Because this was the era of the NFL where the passing game hasn't quite caught up yet. Mm-hmm. So they're just throwing into areas with guys.
Yeah, they're definitely not as conservative with their passes as you would think. And
Unitas is the first guy to kind of change that when you really think about it.
Yeah.
Is
His accuracy.
His accuracy, his efficiency, and calling his own plays.
Yep.
Like a G. They started 9-1 that year, and they lost their last 2 regular season games, but they were more or less, they had the NFL Western Division clinched by that 9-1 start.
Yeah.
A huge Unitas comeback against the 49ers in the second half kind of clinched everything for them. They were tune-up games, essentially. Leading into this championship.
I was going to say, because they didn't play all their starters for the last 2 games of the series, or of the regular season.
Yeah.
So they were benching a lot of guys, getting a lot of guys. So they were healthy going into the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. The Giants, on the other hand, my God, had to scratch and claw their way to even be in this game.
Yep.
Head coach Jim Lee Howell, and probably the best offensive-defensive coordinator duo we'll ever see in NFL history, I think. You know who they were?
No, who's that?
Vince Lombardi coached the offense.
Yep.
And Tom Landry coached the defense.
Oh, that's pretty wild.
They were a very up-and-down team where they were very defensive-based.
Yeah.
Not like a lot of great production out of Charlie Conerly and Don Heinrich at quarterback. Their backfield was stacked, though, with Mr. Kathy Lee Gifford out there. Frank Gifford scoring 10 total tutties that year. Alex Webster at fullback, along with Mel Triplett. Their wide receivers, you had Bob Schnelker and then Kyle Rote. And along the offensive line, All-Pros Rosie Brown. All-Pro Rosie Brown at left tackle. And their kicker was actually good. I don't know if you saw who that was.
No, who was that?
Pat Summerall.
Oh, yeah.
Pat Summerall. So I'm bringing this up as far as we'll bring this up later, but as far as their defense, first in points per game, Rosie Greer and Andy Robustelli up front, Hall of Fame, or I think Rosie Greer's in the Hall of Fame, and then Sam Huff, All-Pro, Hall of Fame middle linebacker. I mean, this defense was invented by Tom Landry. Mm-hmm. They started the 4-3.
Yeah.
With their innovation of it. And the one thing I wanted to bring up about Pat Summerall, though, is they have to scratch and claw their way to 9-3, and they have to play a playoff game against Cleveland, who they've been chasing all year. They get to that playoff game because in the final game, they beat Cleveland on a game-winning 49-yard field goal by Summerall.
That's wild.
Dudes were not draining them from that
No, not at all.
type of distance, which is unfreaking believable. Lombardi even said to Summerall after the game, you son of a bitch, you can't kick it that far.
Oh, that's great. No, because they wouldn't even attempt around the 50-yard line back then. You know what I mean? Unless it was like a game-ending play.
Desperation type deal. They end up beating Cleveland the following week, though, 10-0 to be in this game. Little bit about beforehand, Colts owner Carol Rosenblum during the week sent one of his assistant coaches and promised him, I don't know exactly what was promised, but money or some sort of future job positions to take notes and watch the Giants practices illegally.
Yes, I saw that.
So, this is Spygate 1.0.
Yep.
I don't know if he had a cool hooded sweatshirt that made him look like a part of a man's body with extra skin on it, but we'll never know.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. But the Giants had no idea that this was happening, and the Colts entered this game with a lot of confidence. Even though they had lost to them in the regular season.
They're like, we know their plays. That's where the confidence comes from. They're like, we know what they're going to run.
Guys, we know they're going to run the annexation of Puerto Rico. We know it. Just be ready for that Bobrisky. So we get into this game, and a lot of the Giants players had talked about by this point in the season, they're like, I know we'll find a way to win, but we are absolutely gassed.
Yes.
Like, you have Baltimore on one hand taking games off, essentially. You have the Giants literally trying to murder people to get in this game.
Beating Cleveland right at the end of the regular season and then having to go and play them again. And yeah, I've heard that before and I don't think they had a week in between the Super Bowl or whatever, the championship.
Yeah.
So I think it was just the NFC or whatever title and then right into the championship. They didn't have media week or
No,
whatever.
there's no media week. Johnny, where do you get your haircut? Go fuck your mother.
Yep.
Like, apparently before the game, Weeb Eubank, the Colts coach, was roasting his players. to try and get him riled up and inspired. I don't know if you saw that, but he was just absolutely like saying, they say you're a good wide receiver. In my mind, you suck.
Oh, that's so wild.
It was like an airing of the grievances to motivate people.
And then they're about to just go into a feats of strength. So it makes sense.
Amici, you couldn't smooth a silk shirt if you had a hot date with a bae. Lost my train of thought. I think you can take him, Alan. So...
Come on, Georgie.
People consider this the greatest game ever played. It's filled with a lot of bad mistakes, and the first quarter is pretty evident of that.
First quarter is wild, how many fumbles, pass intercept. Like, it's I get why people say this. It's like the first one that people are like, oh, these football games can get really good, really fast. But man, did it start off really bad.
The Giants don't even start Conerly. They start Don Heinrich.
I know.
Essentially to like almost like, you know, we talked about the boxing references, kind of just feel out what the Colts were doing on defense.
Yep.
And it really costs them. They have their first 3 possessions, they don't have any first downs. And Baltimore is also turning the ball over too when you're thinking they should be in so much control of this game.
The game starts with back-to-back fumbles. So the Colts fumble it, and then, the Colts fumble it, Giants get it back, they fumble it, Johnny gets it back, old Unitas, and then he throws an interception. Yeah. So it really is a start of like follies for this game where you're just like, these guys know how to play, right?
Yeah, right. So Baltimore starts kind of moving the ball. There is a big bomb to Lenny Moore down to the Giants 25 in the first quarter.
Yep.
On that play, and it would have been interesting to see how the Colts would have attacked him had this not happened. Moore hurts his back. And because of this, Eubank is pulling the old Shanahan, Terrell Davis thing like, no, you need to be in the game just for them to dedicate guys to you.
Yep.
So it's a huge play, and it's 3rd and 6 for the Colts, and they end up getting stopped at the 25-yard line of New York after some pretty crappy plays happen. They send Myra out there, and Sam Huff blocks it.
I was just going to say, for the first kick, and this is the more proof that this first quarter was just bad football outside of the block kick. But like you're like, okay, they're just going to chip this one in. It's not very far. Block kick. Another, I think it's and this is when the Giants replace and they finally bring Conerly in. So because they're finally like, all right, guys, the practice is over. I was reading that. I was like, was he injured or something? And they was just like, no, we just decided to start another quarterback for the last game of the season.
Could you imagine if a coach did that now, what the media would do?
Oh, my God.
Oh, wait, they did that. Remember Doug Flutie?
Oh, yeah, Doug.
Way to go, Ralph Wilson, you douche.
Just didn't want him out there.
Didn't want him out there. Nobody wants a small Flutie. They want a big Johnson.
That's so true.
So on the ensuing drive, there's a swing pass to Mill Triplett for 9 yards. Then Gifford has a huge run down to the Baltimore 31. And then on 3rd and 8, there's an incomplete pass, and Summerall hits a 36-yard field goal to end the first quarter.
So now it's 3-0. 3-0 Giants, which nobody saw coming. Or not nobody saw coming, but the way this was playing out, you were like, Colts should really be more in control of this game.
It was like, Johnny Unitas, why? Do it. Do it for Baltimore. Do it for crew cuts. Do it for high tops.
Do it for high tops.
Do it for the high tops. In the second quarter, Gifford has a huge fumble. I believe it's his first of 3 fumbles, which really sets up the Colts to get. Ray Krause got it for the Colts.
Yep.
Gets it at the New York Giants 20. Moore runs for 4. Amici runs for 4, and then Amici gets a first down. Moore runs down to the 14-yard line, and then Amici scores a touchdown to close out this drive, like when they're inside the fucking 10-yard line.
So it's so now it's 7-3 Colts, and it's not a great feeling, I feel like, in the stadium where you're like, okay, we got this, we're starting to click. It's like there's so many mistakes. And then we see it right away again with the Giants.
Yeah, right away again with the Giants. They end up driving the ball down to the Baltimore 10, and Gifford fumbles again.
Yep.
At this point, though, Rosie Greer is out for the Giants, which is a huge loss. Mm-hmm. Going 90 yards, Unitas executes a 14-play drive. absolutely vivisecting them with Berry and Muchler, all of these weapons at his disposal, and they got no answer for it.
I was going to say, and this is what, as a Colts fan, you were expecting. And then I feel like when this drive happens, you're like, yeah, that's our team.
And nobody can cover Raymond Berry.
No.
It's like watching Larry Bird. You're like, this guy?
Yeah.
And then he's doing the most incredible of things, making people look terrible. So the drive ends on a touchdown pass to Raymond Berry, and it's 14-3. And we end the first half with this. And if you're Baltimore, you're thinking like, yeah, that was a rough first quarter, but this is pretty much in the bag if we keep doing what we're supposed to do.
And the Giants look so bad on offense. They just literally keep turning the ball over. They're not even really punting the ball. They're just literally dropping the ball almost every single drive. And yeah, 14-3. And it's pretty much in the Colts' hands to take over this game.
Yeah. At halftime, Sam Huff was talking about how everyone was just so despondent over what had happened and how much they were down.
Mm-hmm.
But like they're like, just let us prevent them from scoring again. Just put points on the board.
Yep.
Even Tom Landry was talking at halftime, and he never talked. So with their first possession of the second half, this is where you thought the Colts were going to go in for the kill. Jim Muchler has a big catch, probably got a concussion on this play, but a huge catch over the middle. And the Giants D ends up stepping up because the Colts drive it inside the 10-yard line. Amici gets, I think they're at the 4 on a big pass to Lenny Moore. And you're thinking, this is it.
This is it.
In this era of football, 21-3 is like 80-3 now.
Yes, it really, yes.
Just the way the passing game is set up. On the first play, Amici gets to the 1. Big play by Sam Huff and future Hall of Famer Emlyn Tennell.
Mm-hmm.
Unitas goes for a quarterback sneak on second down and is stuffed. Amici is stopped on third down. And you're thinking, okay, you're right in front of the goal. A Myra field goal would be pretty important because it's 17-3. They need 2 touchdowns to just tie you.
And like you were saying, in this era of the NFL, the scoring points are so much more valuable. Mm-hmm. So to get that 3 points, I think would have been huge, but they actually go for it.
They went for it, and there's some miscommunication on this play.
Yep.
Where the original call was for Unitas to kind of toss it to Amici. And the original plan was Muchler was going to be wide open in the end zone, which he was, for him to throw it.
Yep.
I don't know what Amici heard or what the miscommunication was. You toss it to your power back?
Yeah.
Moving laterally against that defense? Not smart. He's stopped by Cliff Livingston. That was the thing. The receiver was wide open. He could have granny shotted it to him.
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly.
And with 5:10 in the third quarter,
they stop him at the 1. And just to put it in perspective, the momentum you get as a team where you're like, great, we're about to be 21-3. And then you stop them at the 1, 3 plays in a row. And then you're like, okay, let's drive down and actually put some points on the board.
There's still time. So Gifford on first down gets him 5. On second down, Conerly has this great pass to Kyle Rote on a post play.
Yep.
He breaks a tackle, and he's rumbling down the field and fumbles the ball. Alex Webster picks it up and runs all the... I think on that play, if there was instant replay, he scored.
Oh, yeah.
I actually think he scored, but they mark him down at the 1-yard line.
Interesting.
Mel Triplett runs it in from 1 yard away, and it's 14-10.
Yep.
And if you're the Colts, you're like, man, this is some time for our offense to get going, and it didn't happen.
Well, and just to put it in perspective, they went from almost going 21-3 to 4 plays later going 14-10. Mm-hmm. That flip is so quick that you're just kind of like, oh, any momentum the Colts have just got destroyed. Now the Giants are really feeling it, and yeah, here we go.
And then they're trading possessions here as we end the third quarter,
Yep.
and the game has become cold. The weather's become cold. The field is covered in ice. This is not like this is snowmen and penguins and ice.
Sanka, what you smoking?
I'm not smoking. I'm
breathing.
The players were wearing those capes, and all I
Yeah.
could think of was Bobby when he said he'd make a good assistant coach. I probably want to wear a cape. And Those are the moments with the look on Hank's face that I'm like, now I know how my dad felt so many times.
Yeah.
Just so many times. Like, God. But the Giants start driving the ball on their ensuing possession, and
This is
great plays by Conerly here.
Yep.
And great plays by Gifford. Great plays by basically everyone. And what ends up happening is huge catch by Gifford for a 15-yard touchdown, 17-14 with 13:50 left in the fourth quarter.
Oh, I wanted to bring up this play because it happened midfield, and
Yes.
it was such a lucky play for the Giants where one of the guys fumbled it and Webster was trailing on.
That was the one I was talking about.
Oh,
the
okay.
rope play.
The rope play, yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yeah. The post pattern where he was wide open and
Yes.
then just fumbled it down.
And then just fumbled it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so You're right. I got mixed up there. Giants take a which is crazy to think about, a 17-14 lead.
Oh, yeah. Myra ends up missing, I believe, another field goal.
Yep.
For the Colts, so they're still down. And what the Giants have basically started to do is run the clock. They're in full Gifford, Webster triplet mode.
Yep.
It's first. So the Giants start trying to drive the ball again to really put the nail in the coffin. Triplet and Gifford are eating the clock, and Gifford fumbles again.
Mm-hmm.
Big Daddy Lipscomb ends up coming up with it, and you're thinking, oh my God, we've got a real game now.
And then this is where it's interesting because Unitas gets sacked 2 times.
Like in a row.
In a row.
Yeah, like Robustelia gets him on one, and then Modzalewski, I don't know how you say that, but he got
Well, his
him on
first
the
name's
next.
Dick. So,
Well, I mean,
come on.
Sorry, Penis Modzalewski. Giants are trying to kill the clock with 5:46 left to go in the fourth quarter. They start at their own 19. Webster gets him 5. Gifford has no gain, and on 3rd and 5, Webster picks up a first down to the 32. There's a no gain by Webster on first down. Gifford goes for 5. Then he goes for 3. On this particular play, Gino Marchetti breaks his leg.
Oh, yes.
Eugene Big Daddy Lipscomb falls with all of his weight, and Marchetti's a World War II. Him and Art Donovan are like they've seen real shit.
Yeah.
He does not want to be carried. He's Tim Crumrying it on the sideline in the cold with a broken leg.
Doesn't go to the locker room. Stays to watch the end of the game, and they were like talking about how bad the break was. They were like, "Yeah, it was horrible."
Oh, yeah. You could hear it.
Yeah, he's just sitting out watching the game.
They don't make men like that anymore. I don't think we come in those models anymore.
Definitely not.
Like, good Lord. But on the next play, they run it to Gifford, so it's 3rd down and short. If you look at the play, and if there was the ability of instant replay and challenging,
Yeah.
he might have picked it up. He very well could have picked up the first down.
Yep.
And a lot of the Giants players thought he picked up the first down, and some of the Colts players were like, oh, maybe not.
But they forced him into punt.
What I thought was weird, though, and we had talked about it earlier in the game, conventional wisdom said you should have punted, but the Colts, they went for the jugular and tried to get that touchdown.
Yep.
I feel like, much like with the Redskins in the game we talked about with Riggins, fucking go for it.
Go for it.
Because if you go for it, you probably win the game.
Mm-hmm.
If you convert that 4th down or that 4th down and 1, you win the game.
Yep.
But they call it short. They send in Pro Bowl punter Don Chandler, he had a great punting day, by the way. Like, I mean, he could have punted in this era with how good he was as a punter, particularly in this game. And Colts get the ball at their own 14 and send out Johnny U. And I mean, he played like Johnny Utah in this game in that Rose Bowl before he got his knee twisted back 90 degrees. Like, he could have been an FBI agent if he wasn't a quarterback, too.
What they say is this drive is what made NFL so popular in the United States. It's the first time it's being televised. Johnny U runs a 2-minute drill. Nobody was even calling it that at that point.
And he's calling his own plays.
I was just going to say, and he's out on the field calling his own plays and drives it all. It's such an amazing end to this game that makes it like memorable for everybody.
So in the first set of downs, there's a huge 3rd and 10 catch by Lenny Moore. He threw it behind him, but Moore made a great catch to pick up the first down. And then it's just like carving them with Raymond Berry.
I was just going to say, he throws 3 consecutive passes to Berry.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, come on.
I mean, Sam Huff was even joking, like, he's like, I will never unhear Unitas to Berry from the PA guy for the rest of my life.
That's actually kind of funny.
Unitas to Berry, Unitas to Berry.
Yeah.
There's a big pass to him at midfield where he broke a couple of tackles. With 53 seconds, Berry gets him down to the 35. And then with 40 seconds left, he gets him down to the 13. If you're watching football for the first time, you're like, oh, they can do this?
Yeah. That's what I feel like people at home watching being like, wow, that's possible for them to drive it all the way,
Yeah, with passing, not
with
just
passing.
like running.
Yeah, that's what I mean. In that amount of time, because you would see guys like really like 3 yards in a cloud of dust. But in this era with Johnny Utah, thank you.
That's right.
Just his passing and just going Berry, Berry, Berry. They're just like, this is different.
Even Gary Busey knew the ball was going to Raymond Berry. So with 5 seconds left, they send out Steve Myra.
And Myra hits one with 7 seconds left to tie the game.
Oh, yeah, 7 seconds, that's it.
To actually send it into the first overtime ever in NFL playoff history, thus making it an even bigger game. You know what I mean? That's the kind of ridiculous shit that I think of with this being televised. And you're like, is football always like this?
Yeah, right? Oh, my God. And like that last drive, I got to admit, that's on the level of Montana in Super Bowl 23, fucking Roethlisberger in Super Bowl 43, just like end of game where one dude just puts everyone on his back.
Yep.
And much like the Unitas to Berry, it's Montana to Rice, Roethlisberger to Holmes. It's like usually one guy on that drive who's hot.
Yes.
But you're right. We're entering Jean-Claude Van Damme's sudden death territory. And it's on TV. It's on this newfangled invention, the television, moving pictures. So the Giants win the coin toss.
Yeah. And this is sudden death.
And Don Maynard, who is a future Hall of Famer with the later New York Titans and Jets, who's playing for the Giants now, bobbles the kickoff.
And he's actually said this in his in interviews or whatever. He was like, I'm just mad that people call it a fumble.
Yeah.
Because it's not a fumble. He just muffed the kick, so he literally dropped it. But it's not technically a fumble. But he was talking. Yeah, he was talking about it, and he was just like, it just pisses me off where people say that, and you're just like, yeah, but you really did screw that up.
I mean, granted, I don't know what he would have done if he had fielded it cleanly, but what ends up happening is the Giants go 3 and out. And they go 3.
Because they're on their 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the problem is, maybe you really should have gone for that 4th down, because guess who you have to punt the ball back to? And guess who only needs a field, even though they're not really relying on Myra, who are you punting the ball back to?
Yep.
So they end up having to punt it back to the Colts. Chandler gets off a great punt again, so they have to start from their own 20. And now we get to see the legend.
Well, and this is what I imagine cements football in people's minds at this time, because you get to see back-to-back Johnny Unitas drives from literally like 80 yards out.
He was my dad's favorite player as a kid.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I would assume most people from that generation, unless you hated the Colts.
Unless you just, flat out hated the Colts.
You're just like, this man and his sorcery. And it's not like an evil Sanderson sister sorcery. He was just motherfucker in charge, Johnny Unitas. So, starting the drive, Dupre has a big run out to the Baltimore 30. There's a missed bomb to Lenny Moore, which really could have sealed it.
Yep.
Lyndon Crow made a great job on the back end. Dupre runs for 3. And then Unitas on 3rd down has this swing pass to Allen Amici to get them the first down, or their second first down of the drive, which is like huge. Mm-hmm. Amici broke a tackle and barely got enough. Dupre ran it to the 43. And then on Unitas is sacked on second down
Oh, yes.
by Modzalewski and Frank Uso. And on 3rd and 15, he escapes the pocket. And who does he throw it to the Giants 43?
Big Berry, and that's it. I feel like the story of this game is Unitas to Berry.
Yeah, you could just call it that. Not the greatest game ever played. Just
Yeah.
Unitas to Berry, and you know exactly what's going to happen.
Yep. He had two catches for 33 yards in this drive. So just like put it in perspective, he almost went half of what they needed to do were all just Unitas to Berry.
Oh, for sure. Amici gets down to the 20 on a really
6.
executed
Yep.
trap play. Dupre has a no gainer, but then Berry to the 8.
Yep.
And now, do you want to get into what happened with the TV?
Oh, yes. I didn't know about this.
Oh, it was on. I remember seeing it on the 75 seasons thing the NFL had. I had no idea, but I learned about this when I was like 8, and I'm like, that changed everything.
Yes. So a guy runs out onto the field.
So they lost the TV feed.
Yes.
Whatever, the cable got messed up. They're going in for the winning touchdown to end, hey, the greatest game ever. An NBC employee runs onto the field.
Now, I heard this is unverified outside of the fact that every single person said that guy came from where all the NBC guys were, and he's wearing like a suit, and he's just running onto the field. And you're like, oh, that kind of makes sense.
He's like Morgana, the kissing bandit without them titties.
Woo.
We're like in the 10-cent beer night. Topless
Yes.
woman on the field.
Yep.
But no, to his credit, because it's not like he's drunk or he's trying to make a scene or a political statement. He's like, fix the goddamn cable before they catch me.
Yeah, no, literally, he's like, I'm giving you 30 seconds. You need to fix it. They did fix it. And then you get to see the end of the greatest game ever, which that's the other thing I was thinking about when I was reading this. Could you imagine watching this entire game and then the cable feed goes out at that time?
It's like that Jets Raiders Heidi game.
Yes.
Like where you're just like, what the hell happened? I'm waiting.
It's like the end of The Sopranos. You're like,
Yes.
what is check the cable box. It's crazy.
Oh no, check the cable box. I want to know what happened to the gabagool. So Amici gets down to the 6 on first down. On 2nd and goal, the game almost ends.
Yep.
Muchler catches the ball down to the 1.
On the 1, yeah.
And that is a very ballsy play by Johnny Unitas. To throw the ball in that situation where you just need a field goal.
Dude, it's just like that Seahawks-Pats game where you're like,
Oh, God.
you have beast mode. Just give it to him. Nah.
No.
But that's what I was thinking that too, where you're just like, that's pretty bold.
That was a bad move, Hank. I gave Nancy all of your real ID cards. God damn. So on 3rd and 1, that was what I couldn't get over. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But you know what? Heroes get remembered. Legends never die. And on 3rd and goal from the 1-yard line, Unitas hands off to Amici, and he scores to make it 23-17 behind an awesome Lenny Moore block. I don't know if you saw that part of the play, but oh my God,
he
did he put his
opened
body on the line.
when you just see a hole open and you're like, oh, they won.
I don't know if you heard about how they got the ball back from it, though. Our buddy Buzz Nutter stole it away from a fan.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
That's wild.
He took the ball back
from a fan.
Yeah,
that
from a
was
fan.
like,
He picked it up after Amici got up, like, wow, I
Yeah.
just scored. Like, what's going on? Oh, the ball. And then Nuzzbutter.
Yep.
Nuzzbutter steps in. But this is the most important game in NFL history, and I'll tell you why. In 1958, there were only 12 teams in the NFL. You're only playing 12 regular season games. And there are swaths of the United States that don't even have a regional team.
yes.
Because this was on TV and because of how exciting it was, it created a thirst for football that has never been before seen.
Mm-hmm.
So much so, in fact, to people who watch this game, which we'll do in our next episode, Bud Adams and Lamar Hunt both wanted to get into the NFL and buy teams because of
the game,
and they're an oil man from Texas,
and the popularity that they could see that it was. So I was thinking about this. I don't think it's the greatest game ever, but I do think it's the most important.
Yes.
Like, without a doubt, football would not be what it is today without this game and the way it went down with just like it goes into overtime. You watch Johnny Unitas literally do 2 80, 90-yard drives. Like, it cements the other thing. It cements the quarterback as like, oh, this guy's going to lead us all the way down, because it was a huge running league.
Oh, for
sure.
So
like this, it just changed so many things. And then, like you were saying, people that were like, I've only seen football in my high school. They're like, this is amazing.
And because of this, by 1960, Hunt and Adams have started a brand new football league.
Yep.
And you know what they're doing? They're adding more teams, which means more roster spots and chances for players like a Don Maynard for the New York Titans Jets.
Yeah.
Like a lot of other guys who made their bones in this league who weren't getting a shot because of the limited number of opportunities.
Because it was bottlenecking.
And what it also did was force the NFL to start adding expansion teams in Dallas, Minnesota, New Orleans, Atlanta. Like, this game is the cause. What you see now in the NFL is because of this. Is because of this. Why is baseball not the most popular sport in the United States of America? This game. Because football is way better to watch on TV than baseball.
Yes, it is. It is so much more exciting. It flips at the drop of a hat. There's so many things with football that you're just like, oh, this makes so much sense. And just the star power that I feel like quarterbacks get in the 70s and 80s.
Absolutely. Yeah, like it's the guy.
It's the guy, yeah.
The guys in the 70s. Oh, he's just like Johnny Unitas.
Yep.
You know? So I loved watching this, but I loved even more the historical context and what came from it, I think. So go watch it. It's in black and white. I think they have the color version out now.
Oh, really?
I think they came out with the colorized version about 15 years ago.
I watched all of it in black and white. Not the whole game, but I watched all the highlights in black and white, and I was like, this is the way it feels like it should be consumed.
Oh,
But,
exactly. Yeah. For those times.
Yep.
Thank you, television. Teacher, mother, secret lover.